rule, like the gods, brought all those gods under his rule, and then in doing so, kind of like boned the whole thing. So most of the
Huh.
goblin gods that did exist, their pantheon are either dead or they're subservient to
Yeah.
Mabugliet, and the only one who's not is a goblin god, specifically a goblin god, not a hobgoblin god, not a bugbear god, but specifically a goblin god. Who oh, hold on, this thing didn't play. Go, there we go. A goblin god who specifically is a he doesn't have a name, or it doesn't have a name, and it doesn't have a name
Yeah.
because the goblins are like, if we name it, it suddenly gives it a corporealness, which means that Mabugliet can come after it. And
Ah.
yeah, so its whole shtick is just to be a little shit. Like, like
Well, well, in Hawaiian culture, the Pele is the goddess of fire,
right.
and so that sort of having a goblin with fire around there is quite appropriate for the show.
Yeah.
And as well, Hawaiian culture has a mythology about the Polynesians when they arrived sometime in the year 1200, ACE or the 1400. They said that there were little people on the island, um, as if there were some sort of indigenous thing. That there's been searches for these folks, in archaeological. We haven't found archaeological evidence, but there's lots of. The problem is that there's a lot of area of Hawaii actually that is very remote and hard to get to. So
Yeah, that makes sense.
it could be a myth. It could actually be actual. Oh,
There we go.
Oh, hey
oh
there,
wow.
everybody. How you doing?
Hey.
How's it going?
Hi. Oh,
What's
hey.
up?
Hello.
Well, welcome back to the Volcano editions of Debate Hub, where I have the lovely Landon and the lovely Maanyaa, who decided to take a break from her break of saving all the northern snow leopards in Russia from extinction to be here with us today. I
Hey, when
am your
Pele
host.
calls,
That's true. I am your host, Chesh. I am the master debater, and welcome to Debate Hub. I'm excited and happy to be here. We did miss last month. That was my fault. I messed up my scheduling from my move, so when it was time to do this, my computer wasn't hooked up yet, and it was half apart, and I was like, "Oh no, what have I done?" So that was my mistake.
I guess. Well, it happens, when you're moving. A lot of stuff gets, out of hand. It's
But it is a happy
chaos.
Friday. Don't make
Yes,
excuses.
it is.
Don't make excuses for me, Maanyaa.
Well,
Come on.
well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on time zone, latitude, and tiltmeter status. I'm really glad to be here, and in fact, the delay of the show was actually quite important because a bunch of things happened, which we get to report on. But I'm here,
Nice,
all
nice.
prepared. I have my my mug, the Killia mug with has ash from Killia Volcano in it, with a homemade cafe latte. I also have my homemade bread, local butter, and Vegemite from Australia.
Nice,
I'm one of
nice.
those odd Yanks that actually loves Vegemite, although I prefer either Pro-mite or Aussie-mite, but that's a different story.
I've never tried it, so I'm not sure. I'll have to try it one day. Maybe
Yeah,
when
It's savory,
Oh, I like that.
and you want to and you want to put on a little bit of it, right? If you've ever had it
Not too
before,
much.
it's a very yes.
Well, maybe
So it's
one
one
day
work.
when I get to go
It's
visit
like
Maanyaa.
it's like wasabi. You know wasabi when you
Yes.
have
Ah,
yes. sushi, you get wasabi with it. That's what it's like. If you have too
Oh.
much of it, it's gonna blow your lungs and your nose out. But if
Yes.
you have a little bit of it with the soy sauce, it's like
Well, that
Yeah.
is our first question for
Excellent.
Landon today, already in the chat from Feline. I have one question for Landon. What does he mean with shout up the nose with kimchi? It's not that spicy.
kimchi.
Well, okay, shouting.
Sorry,
but
Kamichi
shouting
is a colloquial thing me and like a couple of
Kim-
people in my friend group
Kim-
do. We call it Kamichi
Oh,
for no
okay.
stupid reason.
yeah,
Sorry.
it's kimchi.
It's
This
funny.
is not. We're not dealing with a Pokemon reference. We're dealing with kimchi.
See,
And
Landon gets it. Landon gets it.
I'm sorry. I don't want to. I don't want to Pokemon explain.
Landon, watch the video.
Yay.
If you know, you know.
But as I say about the kimchi, classic kimchi often has non-vegetarian, but you can make it vegetarian.
Oh,
The fish
that makes sense.
that's used with kimchi can be quite potent. And the expression "shout" is like if you have a fish that shouts, it's a fish that's very strong, fishy smell, fishy taste, may not be fresh, so forth. Same sort of thing. So the kimchi, when I talk about shouting to the nose, a kimchi that's vegetarian that doesn't have fish in it, will not be as shouting,
Won't be as loud.
nose wise. And it can then
Your
be mixed, and
nose.
you could then incorporate it in, like if you had a salad and you wanted to give a little bit of something, you could put a tiny bit of kimchi on the top with a little bit of a spark. So,
Oh, man, I missed you guys.
standard kimchi just okay.
Oh,
I miss
okay.
you
He
folks
says
too.
thanks.
See, food,
And-
volcanoes, Pele. What else do we want? Pokemon? Like what?
and maybe goblins
D&D?
and a bit of
D&D?
D&D and stuff and of course other this isn't quite the dumb fact Friday thing. This is a different
This is true.
take on life. But
But it is
but
Friday, so welcome everybody to the weekend.
Yeah.
yes,
I'm already.
yes. Some people
Yeah.
you're aren't you? What day is it for you, Maanyaa?
Saturday morning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
It's already weekend here.
But yes, I saw a reference. I do eat Marmite, but I find Marmite to be more sweeter and stickier than I prefer. I don't dislike Marmite.
That's what she said.
But I think Blend 17, Promite, which actually is also, I think Promite is Promite the one that is also made in New Zealand as well? Might be.
Which one, sorry?
Promite.
Promite. Isn't Promite?
No, not in New Zealand.
What's the difference?
I thought one was the one. I thought there's a mite that's made in New Zealand.
There's a mite. There might be a mite
that's
made.
Yeah.
This is a good day.
Anyway, but yes. But I guess we should talk about what's happening volcano wise, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you wanna switch on over? You wanna do our fancy switch?
Ooh, let's do the fancy switch.
Did it go to the right one? Go, damn it. There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, it's a little delayed.
Yay! Yeah, it's delayed for the process, but I'm glad because it's important to have the intro before we go to things volcanic. We have a great show for you today. Lots of things are happening volcanic wise. The current count of erupting volcanoes right now is 51 on the planet Earth. So again, trying to get the notion that volcanoes are not this sign of the apocalypse sort of thing. They happen all the time, like saying it's raining someplace. But 51 volcanoes right now erupting.
That's a lot.
Some more than others.
That's almost a whole
Yeah.
that's almost a whole deck of cards.
Yes. And so if it is a deck of cards, I would think the following volcano would be Queen of Hearts.
Ooh.
Here.
I do have a question
Right.
about Yellowstone to get to later at some point.
Excellent.
But just-
We'll Yellowstone for that as well. So if you see what's in front there looks like, in fact, many people, you might think, well, there's this little hill. This is a picture taken from the Volcano Observatory. It's a it's a place where we observe the Kilauea volcano. So Kilauea is behind the camera. So we're looking backwards up towards Mauna Loa. And so that bump is deceptively small. This particular volcano, Mauna Loa, is an amazing structure. And let's go in.
It's way more red than I expected.
Yes, it has quite a. Of course, we're also having there's a little bit of tinted red because of the sunlight coming in low.
Yeah,
a little bit of that, but it is has that sort of volcanic red thing that's there, and one of the things in particular, people are used to nice pointy mountains. I mean, Kiwis have lots of amazing mountains in the South Island, that stick up. These are shield volcanoes that are very flat and low slope. And this particular thing is deceptively small. This is an enormous thing, and I'll give you a better sense of this thing, so you can come back and appreciate just the size of it. But part of the thing you're seeing is the clarity of the clarity of the Hawaiian air. This particular, you're looking at the top of the world's largest active volcano. And the top of that, it peaks at around 4,170 meters. That's 13,680 feet for those that are metrically challenged. So you're seeing an enormous...
Every time. We never once have we ever let go of this joke, and it will remain forever.
So this is a 4,000 plus meter mountain. You're seeing the top of it, but you're seeing it very far away, but because it's so the slopes are just slow, and the air is so clear typically at the time, its height is deceptive.
How big how tall would maybe a relative building be for comparison for people?
A relative building,
so a pyramid, or a hotel.
I mean that I will
Trump's ego.
The tallest. Well, that's a different universe. But I think if the tallest building, doesn't the tallest building approach 1 kilometer in height? This thing would be
the CN Tower, the Sears building. Then there's that big, huge, tall one in Dubai, right? That isn't the Dubai one currently the tallest?
Yeah. I forget how big it is, but I think if it's a 1 kilometer tall structure is only a quarter of this height, right? And so
Burj Khalifa has a height of 829.8 meters, or 2,722 feet, just over half a mile.
Yeah. So this then would be is it how many meters was that?
829, almost 830. You can go with that.
Time to do conversion.
829. So
meters.
Mauna Loa above sea level is 5 times taller. So that's 5 times taller than that.
Holy shit! So, oh my god! Now that's perspective.
And the distance that you're seeing is quite far. Let's look some more of this up. So the Hawaiian island chain and the island of Hawaii the island of Hawaii is the big island down here. The green stuff is part of the state of Hawaii, and it's part of the Hawaiian chain. And the Hawaiian chain, if you go and look underneath the ocean, is this range of mountains going back a bend where there's been a hot spot that the Pacific has been moving over, and the current hot spot is sitting right here at the Big Island. But going back in time, the crust has moved over that hot spot, creating islands. But out there in the Pacific, things wear down pretty fast. And so if you look at something like just the island, just the state of Hawaii and not the chain, you see that some of the islands going back, like Hawaii, are about 5 million years old, to something like Hawaii, which is only about 500,000 years old. So you go from about 5 million Oahu at 3.7, Lanai at 1.2, Molokai at 1.9, Maui at 1.3 to 0.75. So as you see, as you go towards the hotspot, the islands get younger and younger, right? And so places like Hawaii that have the record rainfalls, it was a massive mountain that's been eroded in the 5 million years since it was formed.
So you're suggesting that putting a secret layer inside a volcano is generally not conducive to getting anything done?
Yeah, unless you're Xenu and you're
That's
taking thetans and doing some with it with a DC-10.
Speaking of Xenu, on Wednesday we had Chris Shelton on. If you're interested in talking about Brainwasher with him and Dapper Dino,
Yeah.
segue. Allegedly.
So if you look at the Hawaiian chain, I know Hawaii, next to the seafloor, you find that these things come in groups. So we have the Big Island down here, where Kilauea and Mauna Loa and other volcanoes are sitting, and this particular group up here that includes Maui, Molokai, Lanai, and so forth. This blob here once was the Big Island. Early on, right, probably about 1 million to almost 2 million years ago, but so it was like one giant island, and erosion essentially cut it into its constituent pieces. Similar thing will happen with the Big Island eventually as the hotspot moves on. So if you look at the Big Island of Hawaii, the Big Island has 5 volcanoes, consists of it. And so when people land and they look at something like this and say, well, where's the volcano? One of the things, if you're on a Hawaiian island, you're on a volcano, right? The question is, how active is that volcano? And we've been focusing on Kilauea, which is the side thing. Mauna Loa is this big mom in the middle, right? This is the big thing. Walawai is also an active volcano. So the Big Island of Hawaii has 3 active volcanoes. Active meaning they erupt on a periodic basis. Kilauea is one of the most active volcanoes in the world. Mauna Loa is relatively active, but as we see, it's had a quiet period. Walawai last erupted in 1801, and it still is active. Mauna Kea is dormant, and Kohala is probably extinct. With that. But anyway, that's the Big Island of Hawaii, where it's dominated by Mauna Loa. And if we look at the thing from a satellite view, you can see here.
Beautiful.
Here's Mauna Loa, the big.
That's a butthole.
Yes, this is the big, the big one here. The big mama.
The big one.
And here is Mauna Kea. That's where the observatories sit. And though it's a couple of few meters higher than Mauna Loa, you can see that Mauna Kea has been whittled down by erosion.
But is it currently taller? Yeah.
It's currently taller by a handful of meters, but that's temporary because it's eroding and winding down, and Mauna Loa is active and going up. Here, by the way, here is Kilauea.
Quite the crevasse.
And you see the caldera and stuff down here. Whereas all this thing is Mauna Loa goes over here and here and so forth. This is the Kuala, the extinct volcano on the side. Though it's extinct, it has. If you've ever done helicopter tours on the Big Island, I recommend doing it. They will fly you into some of the waterfalls here. They have huge waterfalls that are kilometer plus type things that are magnificent, and it's a lot of very rugged cliffs. And at some point, this stuff, there's a lot of cracks here. Some stuff is going to break off and slide into the ocean and create a big tsunami that'll be a problem for Alaska. But that's another story.
How big are those clouds? Like those have got to be. How big are those clouds? Because those got to be massive. We're looking at a satellite view, right?
Yeah. So, this is pretty massive, right? This is, and in fact, if you look at the in terms of the size of this thing,
it's massive. Yeah,
the span mean, the span of this is pretty. I mean, it's pretty wide. It's
Mm-hmm.
about 120 kilometers from sort of this edge here over to this edge. This is that. Let's go back here. This is about 120 kilometers across in size.
Wow.
Right. This is massive. And Kilauea is a big island, but next to Mauna Loa is that's the big Mauna. And the top of it, the top of the thing, this caldera here is while we've talked about Pele Mau being the summit peak for Kilauea. Mauna Loa is it's pronounced Makea Weo Weo. Right?
Okay.
Mokaauawo.
And we're sure this is not a giant's footprint.
Yeah, this is. Yeah, we're sure. We're sure this is.
Okay.
In fact, but it's pretty giant. I mean, this area here is pretty massive. This is about 6 kilometers by about 2 kilometers. It's a
Oh, wow.
it is much bigger than Kilauea's caldera.
So remember, if you're
because it's
traveling at 100 kilometers an hour and this thing is 6 kilometers long, how long did it get you to get from point A to point B? This is your math equation homework for the day.
Yeah.
I think
And
so,
by the way,
around
you see-
30 minutes. No, not 30 minutes. Sorry, that's too much. No.
If it's
Around
so
10
so
minutes,
we see in the
15.
background, this is Mauna Kea in the background, and you see snow, right? So Hawaii does have snow, and these two mountains are tall enough to get snow in the wintertime. It's a tradition for like Christmas Day and New Year's Day that a bunch of pickup trucks go up to the snow line, load up with snow, come back down to Hilo, and dump a pile of snow in the park for Hawaiian kids to dress up in their coats and play in the
Nice.
snow. Because most
Aw.
Hawaiians, they see it up in the top, or the kids get to play in it. It's kind of a fun little tradition.
As a Canadian, I find that adorable, and I appreciate it.
I
am not going to be upset that they're culturally appropriating my snowy culture.
It is adorable to see Hawaiian kids look at this pile of white stuff and kind of go up there and like touch it, like
and immediately try to put it in their mouth, because that's the first thing anybody does with snow ever is try to eat it. I don't know why.
That's what you did. That's what you did when you were expressing your disappointment. Yeah, Shesh was not happy with the April in Canada. She was asking Mother Nature, what the fuck?
But don't you Canadians, you have a thing where you put stuff on snow and eat it, right? You put like a syrupy sort of thing out on the snow and
yeah, as long as it's not yellow. Nobody likes lemon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody's here for the lemon snow party, all right? But yeah, like there's things called snow cones, which is basically just shaved ice, which is snow, and then you put like flavored sugar syrup on it.
Yeah. But I want to give you sort of a thing about the size of this volcano. So we mentioned above sea level from here's the ocean to the top was 4170 meters. But the other thing to realize is that this mountain extends down to the ocean. There's another 5,000 meters from the base of the ocean just to the shoreline. So in order for the volcano to reach the surface, which it did, by the way, it broke the surface about 300,000 years ago. So all this stuff up in the top was from the last 300,000 years. It started erupting probably about 700,000 to 1 million years ago here, when the hot spot began to approach it. But so if you take from the base of the floor to the top of the mountain, because that's mountain, right? There's stuff under the ocean. That height, you get 9,170 meters, or over 30,000 feet. So from the base of the ocean to the top of Mauna Loa, it's taller than Everest, because Everest is only 48 meters above the sea level. So already it's taller than Everest. But the other thing to realize is the mass of this mountain is so massive, it's pushed itself into the crust. And it pushed itself into the crust by another 8 kilometers. So if you talk about from the base of Mauna Loa in the crust up to the top is over 17,170 meters. That's over 56,000 feet from the base bedrock of Mauna Loa to its top.
Excuse me. That's huge.
Thank you. Yeah, and so side to side, it is over. So distance is over 250 kilometers across mountain. So when you look at this picture over here and you think, oh, where is the big mountain? Well, that's it. You're looking back. This particular picture is looking back almost 50 kilometers.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
But you see, it's very, the slope is very, very gentle.
Mauna Loa is like the size of France.
Yes, and it's deceptive in its height.
It's sloping
for that reason, right? And why is it? Well, because and remember again, for just the 4 kilometers above the ocean only came in the last 20,000 years. What does that tell you? It tells you this thing puts out an enormous amount of lava and is very, very active, extremely active.
Well, it would have to put that much, end up with that much solid matter above ground, especially with it's competing as well, right? Because it's got to compete with erosion, so it has to put out more than it's losing.
Absolutely, good. That's a very, very, very good point. And so,
sorry, I got stuck in my own chair.
Don't erupt. But
I got a meme for that one. I got a meme for that one, Landon.
This guy is unfucking believable.
Yeah, and it is hard to believe that Mauna Loa is that large, right? When you're on it, it's very difficult to get the extent of the size of this thing, and it has a very long eruptive history in terms of people experience with it. And you could see here's a map showing sort of some of the various eruption flows that occurred over from 1843 to 1984. The last one, last eruption, 1984, had this sort of screen that went here. Hilo is sitting right here. There's Hilo. There's where it stopped, right? This thing, very quickly, this lava went down there, and fortunately for Hilo, this was one of those rare, very short couple-day eruptions stopped, right? But it's had enormous things like this flow here, 1859, went out here. This thing actually went for almost 2 years. Samuel Clemens, otherwise known as Mark Twain, in the story Roughing It, stayed at the Volcano house at Kilauea and talked about visiting this lava flow. It's one of the longest lava flows in history. And so this thing has lots of things. So the problem is that when it erupts, right? So up here at the top, the eruptions usually start up here, but they break out on one of the spines, just like Kilauea has spines, and then they kind of flow depending on which side it hits, right? And so when it begins to erupt, the big question becomes, where is it heading? And sometimes the one of the things about Mauna Loa is that when it erupts, it has various signs of tilt meters start going off things, gas starts coming out, and eventually it erupts. And Mauna Loa is known for very rapidly going from it's got indigestion to it's erupting, right? And in fact, it's not uncommon for it to go maybe have like an hour warning before it starts erupting.
Now back to that Taco Bell joke.
Yes, but as they but at least this is not Burger King. This is more Taco Bell.
Oh no!
And so the thing that happens is that we get the notion of, as it is now, that Mauna Loa is in an active state. But I want to show you of activity, history of activity. This is historical records showing when Mauna Loa is erupted, and the small lines are having an eruption less than 2 days to a week to a month to up to a year or more, right? And what you can see from his period is that it's erupted 33 times since 1843 when they had continuous records, and it averages about for the past 3,000 years it's erupted about once every 6 years. That doesn't mean that it'll go like in clockwork, because if you look here, the Mauna Loa erupted last time in 1984 and has not erupted since. So this period of time now to 2020, because this graph's only going to 2010, is the longest quiet period on record. And the Hawaiians and their legends, talk about this Mauna Loa being a place that Pele goes from Maumau, the house of ferns, goes up the mountain and erupts out of Miawea. And so the legend said that she kind of travels between the two mountains frequently, and they talk about it being a frequent set of eruptions, but it's had this very long period of quiet stuff, and longest that we have been able to detect on record. So what does this mean, right? Well, if we look at the telemetry data of what's happening, let's go back over to here for monitoring stuff. In Kili, we talk about the tilt meters. Well, there's a tilt meter up at the summit, and if you look at this tilt meter thing over here, and you can see these deflation events. Remember we talked about DI events, deflation. There are deflates and inflates, right?
Yep.
And we said that DI events are a sign that energy is coming into the magma chamber. The magma chamber begins to boil. The gases come out. The top of the magma gets stale and sinks in. It deflates, and then new stuff comes up and replaces it. So this is showing that the magma chamber under Mauna Loa is very active. It's quite active, even though it hasn't come out yet. Now, the one thing that's kind of... Go ahead.
It just looks like it's consistently increasing in activity.
Yes.
Overall.
Now, the past month is kind of ruined because there was a big earthquake here that created this big spike, and I wish they could delete these things out of the data, because if you saw the last month, you basically see the same sort of things happening. Yeah. With regards to distance across the caldera of the summit caldera, you can see it's been expanding over the past year, over the past 5 years, right?
Yeah.
So it is continuing. The mountain is continuing to expand. But remember, when that mountain expands by a couple centimeters, it is an enormous sort of volume, because that thing is just, right. Again, the thing is just, it's huge. It's the big mama of the island. Now, it had an uptick in 2021 that people thought, oh, maybe it's doing something, but then it came back down again. In terms of the summit, the actual mountain over last year has gained about 4 centimeters, and over since 2007 has gained about the height. Again, most of what a volcano mostly grows from inside, not from lava coming on top.
Right.
It expands from the inside, and so it is expanded roughly 20 centimeters. So when a mountain that big expands 20 centimeters, that's an enormous amount of magma pushing up on it.
Yeah, it's certainly something that seems like when people say, like, "Oh, where do rocks come from? They don't just grow out of the ground." Yeah, they do.
Yes,
I try to do that thing.
And when you look at some of those, and when you look at some of the strata, and you see little dikes of fingers of rock, and this rock pushed in amongst sedimentary stuff or other igneous stuff, that's again part of that cracking that occurs from inside. Now, fortunately for Hawaiians, these volcanoes are some of the heaviest monitored mountains in the world. All these stars you're seeing here are instruments. seismographs and tilt meters and gas meters and so forth to sprinkle all over the island. This is what you need to do in order to kind of understand what the mountain's doing. Its breathing cycle. By the way,
oh God, you can't say stuff like that. As soon as you say it's breathing, people are gonna be like, "Oh my God, you think it's alive? Oh my God, DNA is a literal digital code." No,
no, God exists. Yes,
but here's the what used to be called Louis now is Kamehameha Loa. This is a seamount. This is the next island forming, the next volcano, and so it's. And remember, the hot spot is not one spot. You can't sit there and say the hot spot is here. The hot spot is sort of in this region, where Kilauea and Mauna Loa are more active. Walai is still active, but it's kind of off the hot spot, so it's not on the hot seat as much.
Inkboy makes has an interesting question that says, if rocks grow from the ground, can you cultivate them? Interestingly enough, yeah. You could.
I think so. I think that they call mining on quarries and other sort of things.
Yeah. Well, I think he means cultivating, as in if you put certain types of things, if you apply certain variables to an area, would you be able to grow a specific type of rock? And the answer is, yeah, kind of. It would be really expensive.
Theoretically, it's possible, but you would need a lot more facilities to do that.
And also, some of the metamorphosis takes a long time.
Right.
Very, very long time.
Yeah.
Now there are some processes that can speed up, like diamond formation, and so forth, can be done. But
yeah.
Yes, it is fun. However, when the volcanoes do erupt and go into the sea, and it's throwing out blobs of lava. When a blob of lava hits the ocean, you get to sort of steam explosion, and what started off as a nice blob of lava gets a bunch of splatter stuff off of it. Right, it flash freezes, and puffs up like a pufferfish, and in fact, it can get enough gas in there, trapped in there, that the rock will float like a little buoy. Right, it's a pumice sort of thing, and it's an odd thing. When you see the volcano, like when Kilauea was pouring into the ocean, you'd come down there and pretty at night and see little bobbing rocks, baby rocks, bobbing in the ocean until they break up and sink.
Little baboos.
Great.
Yeah. Aries has a question.
Little boobas.
Aries has a question that said, could a big eruption collapse the whole island into the sea?
Well, it'd be hard to collapse the old island. I mean, if you look at the size of this thing, I mean, the island is very well supported, right? It's got all this base here, right? So collapsing
under the ocean,
the island into the sea isn't really something you're going to get, but you can get landslides, right? And if you look at some of the set here, if you look at some of this thing, you can see landslides that have occurred. Right.
You can also see.
Look at these slides here.
Yeah.
Right? This is a lot of this is from is basically the thing breaking off and sliding down very, very far.
I think. I mean, theoretically, I think it's possible if you had a big enough eruption. But with how big this island is, I don't know if that big of an eruption is possible.
Yeah.
Well, and also remember that the collapse of, if you had a summit collapse, you get a large caldera. Right? I mean, this particular at the top, the pit was formed probably in the last 3,000 years, they think, and that there was a time where it had explosive eruption where there was a magma chamber on top that collapsed in. Remember, we've seen that with Kilauea. Remember, it had that big magma chamber where all the lava flow for that big eruption came out here, right? Here's Kilauea at the top at Holy Mau, and the magma went down here and came out here, and you had almost a cubic kilometer come out in a matter of a couple of months, causing a void at the top, and it kind of caved in. That pit we see now in Holy Mau is one of those collapses.
So, anybody who's looking for a Dungeons and Dragons world map, by the way, use Google Images, like the satellite view. You can find some good shit.
So Makea pit is sort of that Halemaumau on steroids. I mean, Halemaumau would be the size of this little small thing, right? That's
You're
caldera.
you'd be more likely to lose the island to erosion over a long period of time than you would to an explosion.
Exactly, and that's what happened here, right? This was a big island, but even something like, if you even look at something like Mauna Kea, Mauna Kea. Let's go to the thing. If you see this spine out here. Mauna Kea once had a big spine going this way and this way, right? It's been eroded down pretty much. So it probably started off its life much taller than Mauna Loa is now, and it's been eroded ever since. Right? It rains a lot in Hawaii.
I can imagine that the place where I live, it rains a lot too.
Right near a volcano there, Maanyaa?
Yep.
Yeah.
Near mountains and volcanoes.
So why is this in the news? Well, it's had this long pause, longest that we've seen on record. And one of the things we see is happening is that it has lots of earthquakes. Right now, there is. So this is a map. Here is the pit here. Here's the top summit pit, and these dots are earthquakes that occurred in the last 2 weeks. So it's 156 earthquakes. And the color talks about the depth, right? This one here is sorry, it says miles. Bad. It changes things. We can't have that. That's come on. That is dirty. That is unfair for here. Let's
unscientific.
There we go. But as you see, for this, this is about 7 kilometers deep, whereas the yellow one, right? Most the bright red are about 3 kilometers deep, and the dark red is around 2 kilometers or less. So one thing is we had see a lot of earthquakes, and they're relatively shallow, meaning the magma is getting frisky up the top. This pile here, this has historically been a hot spot, much like Kili has that side area down in the ocean with lots of earthquakes. This is a spot where the strain of the mountain, because again, it's got all this internal pressure. It's creaking. The rocks are kind of groaning under the strain of it, and this is one of the places where it kind of breaks. But these here at the summit are magma working its way up through cracks, cracking rock and getting higher and higher and higher. And so the rate that we're seeing now, about 50 earthquakes a day that are detected at the summit, suggests that the magma is getting a little restless. Now, does that mean it'll erupt tomorrow? Probably not. However, once it decides to erupt, there's going to be very little time between crack and boom, right? And when Mauna Loa erupts, usually starts off coming out of the summit, and then we'll have tubes that will break out and it'll spill someplace. It might go along down the spine and break out, or it might come from the summit and break out. There's all kinds of tubes coming from the summit, lava tubes that will enter in, and it's just a guess as to which direction.
Is it bad that I kind of automatically cringe when I hear just the year 1984?
Yeah,
like
it is.
It's like I feel like I'm being socially conditioned to hear that year or see that year on a piece of paper and go, ugh.
Yeah, particularly for those that are literate, where some years are more equal than others.
Depends on where and when you look.
So, like, the last eruption happened here before I was born. Now I feel old.
Perhaps. But perhaps one might say is that there's a certain resemblance between a certain person's rallies and some of the 1984 rallies. So. Anyway. back to
there was an eruption in 1919 also. Something happened in 1919. What happened? Something had happened.
There was these. In fact, that was a spectacular set of eruptions here. Came from so it started off at the summit. The magma works its way down the spine because it's downhill, and came out here to flow to to the edge. But there's, if you see the dates, there's been a number of dates again. Remember, when we look at the history, there's been a number of eruptions, summit eruptions. These were only the summit eruptions that stayed for a while. These are things that came down the flanks, and such. But it kind of varies on the set as to where it would happen. Now, another thing, I guess, to say from the point of view of let's go back to the map. So when Maanyaa erupts again, it will probably get in less than an hour's notice of all of a sudden,
right?
Lava, which is magma on the surface, will show up near the summit and then start pouring into a tube and take a direction. And
was there dairy in that kind of a situation?
Well, I mean, dairy is as in cows.
Yeah, like as in like you have to run to the bathroom. Lactose intolerance.
In some ways, it can be like some of these eruptions down here in this red zone.
Yeah.
It took less than 3 hours for lava on the surface to reach the ocean.
Yeah, it's fast.
So they're telling people around here that we might have an hour's notice that it's erupting, and about 3 hours notice before it's coming right towards you.
So you had a total of 4 hours to get up and get out.
Some of these can take a day to 2 days to get this direction, this far. But again, it kind of depends on it. So when Hawaiians, with all these instruments there, start seeing a pile of quakes like this, they asked volcanoes, well, when is it going to erupt? And answered, we don't know, but it's in a heightened state of activity. So they've brought the diamond into advisory, saying on watch, right? And they're doing daily monitoring of this stuff. But the thing is, when Mauna Loa finally erupts, it has some of the most spectacular lava flows coming out. Because when Mauna Loa erupts, the amount of lava comes out is just staggering. It is just enormous amounts of volume of lava. Right? It makes Kilauea is pretty good for puts on a pretty good show. But when Mauna Loa goes, and this is a set here in those factors, this is up near the summit, and this is a picture you see going up near the summit where it's falling into the pit here, and the height of this is around 300 meters. These volumes coming up.
Wow.
Shooting up into the air. And
I know I'm small, but that's really high.
So the enormous flow that we saw at the beginning, this is goblin layer, isn't it? Or is that more of a demon layer on? Definitely fiery.
Dragon, red dragon. Red dragon lives there.
Yes.
That's the chonky boy in the new D&D movie coming out next year.
But Kilauea has had spectacular flows. We talk about having a semi truck worth of lava a minute in a swimming pool, in a matter of hour or so. When Mauna Loa erupts, the kind of volumes we see are around 1 billion cubic meters of lava an hour.
Man, I should have used this as my overlay for that video when my face started turning, when I turned it red. I should have had this going off.
So think about it. In an hour, a chunk of lava, 100 meters cube, 100 meters on a side, 100 meters by 100 meters, comes out every hour, right? So this is why this mountain is so big, right? When it erupts, it's very high temperature, very low in sulfur, so it isn't so stinky. It doesn't shout in the sulfur thing, and it's very fluid, and the lava flows out in enormous rates.
Well, that kind of comes to one of the questions we have in the chat. They're asking if the lava is thick or thin, and that might depend on the lava. Some might be thicker than others.
But basalt lavas, that is stuff that comes up in the middle of the ocean, tend to be very thin. And this is why the Mauna Loa is the shape it is. If it's thick, it would be a big pointy rock.
Right.
But it's thin. It's not like oatmeal. It's more like tea, right? It flows very fast,
right,
and very wide.
Inkboy also asked, was the video sped up, or was that lava just moving that quickly?
It's moving that quickly.
Ooh,
right. This is
nice.
Again. Think about like a football field cube size, right? That height with every hour coming out of this mountain. This is why. Remember, again, Mauna Loa only broke the surface 300,000 years ago. So the stuff above the ocean in the last 300,000 years. It's estimated that that essentially the most of the island has been covered, has had flow on it at one point or another in the last 3,000 years.
Yeah.
That is most island that's Mauna Loa.
Yeah, eat your heart out. Eat your heart out, Discovery Channel.
So Hawkskull is saying from the live chat that 12 miles per hour is top speed for the lava. How fast do humans run?
But it depends upon where it's going down. If it's going down a cliff, right? This rock falls at gravity speed, right? And if it's going down a cliff, it actually can go quite fast.
Are we gonna start talking about the what's the term? The terminal velocity of lava?
Yeah. Well, it's relative velocity.
But it's like a river. How fast does the river flow? Well, going down a waterfall is pretty fast.
Right.
Going out on a lazy plain is pretty slow. Same thing with lava.
Right.
Oh yeah, I was just trying to say, in short, don't try to run out the lava flowing from the top.
Don't try to outrun it.
Yes.
Don't try to outrun it. Don't try to swim in it. Don't walk on it.
Don't get near it. Just get away from it as fast as you can.
Yeah. So this is why when we talk about the flows here, if you have that much material flowing at you, trying to build a dike or a dam is kind of pointless, right? That when you've got 1 million cubic meters an hour flowing at you, right?
I guess,
and you're going to put up little those barriers along the
some
roadside.
Sandbags.
I guess that the lava is going to be so hot, it's going to just melt away that barrier anyways. It's going to excuse me?
No. Just get out. Just pick a cool position and ending pose to Landon so that when people find you later, you'll have something, picking your nose.
Yeah, maybe picking your nose, something like that.
Yes, don't do a selfie in front of the flow. Do off to the side. But
my God, Darwin Awards.
And so when the flow is flowing down with that much mass behind it, even if you put some earthen work that's like 100, 200 meters high, it's gonna potentially go over it or go around it, or the pressure is going to break it and smash it. So it's very difficult. The best thing to do is get out of the way. Don't sit there and piss on the lava flow.
Yeah,
not going to help.
That's okay. I'm going to put it out, guys.
Don't go Tyrion Lannister on this shit, okay? Don't try and piss on the edge of it, okay?
And you see that the thing when it was flowing down in the ocean. I mean, when the lava hits the ocean, it doesn't stop. It just keeps going down, right? That's the thing is you can't sit there with fire hoses or dump water in it to put it out because you've got so much thermal energy and you've so much mass moving.
Yeah.
That the ocean doesn't stop it.
It's not just like basic heat. It is a culmination of a few different factors. It's not like a wood fire where you can just cool it down enough and it'll stop. There's friction going on. There's whatever heat, whatever heat is coming from underground still, that is still pressure and heat coming through it. You're not gonna put a fire hose on the Earth's core. Good luck.
No. It's all that radioactive decay mostly, but a bit of the heat or formation of the Earth. Mostly, it's radioactive decay that's formed this stuff. And when it erupts again, will it be a long eruption or a short eruption? Well, they kind of vary between some of them that are really short, as in a couple of days. Most of them are a couple of months, sometimes a couple of years. It kind of depends. So it's one of the things where I'm just waiting because it's one of those things when I hear Mauna Loa's erupting, I'm booking the next flight to Hawaii, and I'm going there to assist in the monitoring of stuff, particularly the early things to help Hawaiians try to understand where the flow might be going. Because if you live on the island, right, there's a road that basically goes. There's a circumnavigating road kind of comes around here to the coast, comes up the Kona, and goes across the saddle road here. So there's a big road that goes. And when this thing cuts off the road, it makes it difficult for people to travel around.
We got a super chat from Smitty for 2 to make Maanyaa full screen.
Oh, thank you.
And
thank
I'm just like now looking under the thing. Hey, hello.
Making her dance and so forth. So will it erupt between now and the next time that we meet? It could, but it's been in this active state now for about a month or so, and it's had times where it's gotten quite frisky here and stopped. So just because it's got an uptick doesn't mean it's going to erupt soon. It will erupt eventually. Right? It's got all the signs that it's going to erupt. The question is when. And no one's thought that it was going to last be this long without it. But I do want to see the big mama doing the giant flows. That's going to be.
Well, that's just Maanyaa. That's what we just had going on. That was Maanyaa.
When Maanyaa doing the Pele dance. So anyway, well, let's go ahead.
It's the thing is that it's like it's been so long since the last eruption happened. Now it's like, is it like? And you're saying like we don't know whether it's going to be a full blown one or it's going to be just like, and just yeah, okay, I'm done for another 10 years now. So it's because, like, can you do something?
we had the 75 eruption, which was were the second longest quiet period, and that thing only lasted for about 2 days.
Yeah,
and then paused, and then had a month eruption. The one that almost wiped out Hilo was here. So the notion of, well, it's building up for a big one. Again, Pele sort of takes your theory and says, "Nah, I'm gonna do my own thing. Thank you very much."
Yeah, she's like, "Nah, you got nothing on me, boy. You can't predict me."
Has there been any updates with the one near Maanyaa? Because I know that's been kind of up and down, and people have been
Yeah, the problem with White Island is that it doesn't have the monitoring station, right? In fact, the monitoring station they put in there after the tragedy of the tourists that were killed, those sensors weren't maintained, and eventually between acid and just things, they lost all the sensors. So right now they're blind. They don't have any little stars around it.
Yeah.
And both people are too nervous, rightfully so, to go up there and start installing instruments.
I mean, especially like currently. Now, there might be times later, or could have been times where they could have done and did that, and they didn't.
Yeah. If the New Zealand government were to ask me what to do, I would recommend using drones on a ship offshore to drop instruments in there to give them at least some telemetry, because right now they're blind.
Yeah, at least that's something. Now,
and
out of curiosity, go ahead, Maanyaa.
It's at state of unrest at the moment at the geonet.org.nz site, and the alert level is 2. Volcanic activity moderate to heightened volcanic unrest. So, yeah, I really hope at this rate, at this level, there are no like tourist.
Yes. Yeah, you want to stay away.
Tourism happen. Yeah.
If you remember from last time we talked about it, they raised it from a 1 to a 2 because they lost all instrumentation and just saw earthquakes. And so they're assuming the worst at this point. But I think, again, I would advise that they start to use drones to get temporary telemetry starting and then have a program of maintaining those actively. That was the thing that they didn't do.
Now,
is
would
to maintain
they
that stuff.
would they hire you to do that or set that up or get you to consult on that? Is that how that would work?
Yeah, the people like me, there's a couple of these stars I helped install.
Yeah.
Of these instruments and triangles and so forth. They helped a couple of these things. And here we work with the local community, with local Hawaiian indigenous people, to both have them understand why are we putting a spot here, and then giving them access to all this kind of data so that they can look at all that tilt instrument stuff and instrument things. And we make it very, very clear we are not telling them to stay or to go, but all this data
here's the
public,
information.
It's real. It's real time. You make your decision, right? All that. And so they ask lots of questions, which we really enjoy. Having these talks in villages, and the kids ask really interesting questions. And because we see a blip like this, right? There's some earthquakes that occurred that caused the mountain to wiggle, right? And they're asking, well, does this mean it's going to erupt soon? Answer is, well, it will erupt again, and these spikes here are not as critical as this back and forth thing. This rapid says there's a lot of energy going into the magma chamber, and is expanding. Where it'll break, we don't know, but most likely, the hour or two before eruption, the tilt-meter will just go off charts, and then it'll come out somewhere in the summit. And then it will enter a tube and pick a direction. Here's the top of the thing down there.
So I have an answer to Billy Brown's question. Not a complete answer, but some idea. Billy Brown said, so how did the Mayans predict it? Eh? Even now we can't do what the ancients done. So that's why I think so where Landon comes in and says it's very important to have relationships with the indigenous population of the area, because they have information that is passed down from generation to generation. A very good example is there's a guy in New Zealand who works on geology projects, but then he also started studying Maori because of his Maori roots, and then he started talking to the local people, and those local people told him of a phenomena I don't know. There's a certain river that goes by, and for some reason, the local, like the municipal, or you can say the local authority, was not building a dam there. And he asked the question to the local. He's like, why? He said, because every once in a while, this river, in some years down the line, will come with a whip slash. It does a whip slash kind of a thing, which would damage the dam, and you're not ready for it. So how did they know it? This information was passed down to them from generation to generation. So we have, like what Landon has observatories. The local tribes or the indigenous people also do their own recordings in such a way. So that's why it's so important to have those relationships, so you can, can get that info.
I think we talked about that on one of our first episodes of this, where we were talking about how pharaohs were able to predict and recognize when the Nile was going to overflood.
Yeah.
Yes. And that is a thing that indigenous people will have knowledge about, experience about it because the continuous observation of Kilauea Mauna Loa started in 1912, where we have continuous systematic observations. Prior to that, we have word of mouth and legend. And for indigenous people, they're not necessarily going to feel the earthquakes, the small earthquakes, or stuff, but they might notice that a mountain stream, the taste is different because there's gases coming in that's changing stuff. They might observe these sort of changes.
Something happens with animals or plants that year.
Yeah. One of the problems about this no information between 1780 and this, by the way, was when the Kilauea volcano's caldera had explosive eruptions around 1790 and wiped out a basically the uncle of Kamehameha, the first United King of the Hawaiian Islands, was warring against Kamehameha, and his military force got wiped out in an explosive eruption, one of those rare explosive eruptions of Kilauea. Both of those groups were going up to the summit, sending their priests up to the summit at Halimau to offer things and ask for favor of the gods for the upcoming battle. And Kamehameha went first, came back, and the much larger army of his uncle went up there, had his priests go up there. And on the way back was a bad time because that's when it had a very explosive eruption.
The gods have spoken.
And half of his army got just basically
wiped out,
burned, died, and another third were badly injured.
Yep.
And the remaining group basically turned to the uncle and said, "You're toast."
I mean, yeah.
And, you know shit. OG.
you got told.
It was Kamehameha's, the thing that happened. His of course, his status, his mana, right? His status connected with the gods went up tremendously, and that's why the Maui sort of said, "Okay, we give up. We'll accept your raya." And he, rarely had to fight going down the Hawaiian chain, basically claiming himself, and was the first united king of the islands as a result of that.
I mean, isn't there also like this idea called it's called the burden of knowledge, which is when you know so much that you can't do anything, right? So like it's hard for you to express to other people what you're trying to, what you know, so you can't dumb it down. But at the same time, the more information you have, the harder it can be to predict something because of whatever it is that you're trying to predict. It's like you could have all the statistics of the lava lamp behind Landon, but that doesn't mean that it's not as random as it could have possibly be.
Yeah, okay, the chaos is an interesting process. One of the complications, however, is that information about what's happening at the summits in the sort of the pure Hawaiian history is limited, right?
Right.
That reason why there's no information is not because there weren't Hawaiians around, but because access to the summit, to places like Mau was limited to the priests and or the very brave people who would come there for a dire need, right? They approached these spots with a lot of fear, a lot of reverence, a lot of
it's like a sacred area, and I mean that's their knowledge is generations and generations and generations of accumulated information, whereas we've only had sensors there for a short time comparatively.
Yes, and so that no information period here between the United Hawaiians and there is because Hawaiians were basically avoiding the area, or except for the priests, and the priests would come up there and do priest stuff and sometimes not even say what they saw.
Right? Whiskey, the best whiskey and gin.
We have some very interesting. There's other kind of records we have in the early 1820s or 1800s. We have artists and writers go up there and sketch and draw stuff. So when we talked about the healing of the island, that island floating in the middle of the lava lake in Halimau and Kilauea.
Yep.
And that sort of thing. And we went back to some of the paintings that people wrote and drawings, and we realized these chunks of rock they were sitting in were islands floating as well. That it did it before. Yeah. And that people thought these were just kind of like interpretations, but actually they were literal drawings of
the art and culture of your society and your local area is incredibly important, and we put no goddamn money into it, and it's terrible. We suck.
Don't wipe it out.
It is when you go to the Kilauea house, a volcano house at the Kilauea the Volcano National Park. Inside the great room are these paintings that people have of sitting there, and we now have a much richer history of what was happening in the caldera from that point of view. This Mauna Loa is a bit harder because it's elevation. It's very it might be a little slow, but it's such high altitude, and it's such a long hike up and back that we don't have people sitting up there at the summit. giving us detailed drawings of that sort of thing. We only have records because we can date the lava flows that came out of it. That being said, the indigenous people give us lots of information about the island. However, in the case of Hawaii, the Polynesians only showed up there. They've only been there about 800 years or so. If there were other people beforehand, we have no knowledge of them. So the Polynesians showed up to Hawaii late. It was in the middle. That's okay because it's the middle of this vast ocean, right? This is not it's a difficult thing to do. But and Hawaiian Islands are the tip of the Polynesian Triangle.
Maanyaa, you're muted.
One of the legs of the triangle is where Maanyaa is now, in New Zealand. One of the legs is Easter Island, way over here, and the top of the triangle is Hawaiian Islands. And the Polynesians themselves have a rich cultural history talking about volcanism because they live on lots of volcanoes.
Not to be confused with Vulcans from Star Trek.
Yes.
It's just Star Trek reference for the day.
That's what I'm here for.
And there's not very many Romulans as well in this area. However, the words we use, like aha and hoi hoi, are Polynesian words because the Polynesians have lots of words to describe lava and describe rocks, and volcanology has adopted their words and their terms.
That's cool, actually. That's really cool.
And in fact, it's interesting because when I talk about volcanism in Hawaii to a Maori or to a Rapa Nui in Easter Island, the words are very similar.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, is Polynesian derived from another language, or is it as is?
You have to ask Dapper Dino or what they say.
Somebody called Dapper.
Linguistics.
Dapper.
I know that the Polynesian languages are similar, and people who understand the migration of Polynesians, that's a whole science about how they migrated and when they went to which islands and where. It's a
Wait,
study.
Landon, did you just tell me that the study of history is science and history is just science?
Well, trying to piece together the historical record. Of early things when you didn't have things like you didn't have a continuous record is difficult, right? So
yes.
when the Polynesians, for example, went to places like Pango Pango, or when they showed up in the Marshall Islands, right, as a question for archaeologists that they're working on it. Yeah,
and that would be science.
Yes.
I win. I've been holding on to this argument for like a year.
Yes.
I remember.
Yes, I think
Shash had a massive argument in the Discord server.
But yes, it's a scientific endeavor. The serious science. It's not something I'm an expert in.
Right.
In the movement of people. But again, the tales that the Polynesians give us suggest, for example, like that the Polynesians talk about that there were little people. It's sort of like saying the difference between the stature between the indigenous Aboriginals in Australia and the Maori of New Zealand. Right? They're very different stature, very different size, and they think that there could have been a Aboriginal type of people living in the Hawaiian Islands when the Polynesians arrived around 12 to 1400.
But it's funny, like, that Polynesians arrived on these islands before Brits, Spaniards, French, anyone, and English and French and Brits and all those, they claim to be more advanced in technologically than the Polynesians. I'm like, you might want to like weigh your like ego a little, check your ego, all right? Other people knew it, but they knew it in a different way.
Maanyaa, stop pretending. Maanyaa, stop pretending there's anywhere except America. All right.
You know where zero came from? Where zero came from? From a third world country called India.
Yeah.
Shunya, zero.
So So again, it is, and I want to say that the Polynesian culture is a very wonderful culture to experience. In particular, there's a lot of common themes between the Maoris, the Hawaiians, Rapa Nui, so forth. And in particular, if you're not a jerk and you show some level of deference, their extension of hospitality is quite generous. And in particular, the thing that when they feed you, there is a sign that you are now under their protection.
Oh,
You're a
yeah.
visitor, right?
That's cool.
And there's a lot of legends where the parents today instruct their kids. They talk about a elderly lady comes to the village and asks for some water, and the villagers say, "Oh, get away, old woman, don't bother us."
Yeah.
And then she goes, other things, they say, well, yes, here's some water, and would you like some food? Would you like some yam, so forth? And
I like to feed
her.
people when I have guests.
Yeah.
Yes. And then the thing is that was Pele, and then she erupts, and the bad village gets wiped out, and the good village, the lava goes around it, right? Sort of thing. So there's sort of the things that they teach.
Dapper has arrived in the side chat. Dapper, the question for you was, I guess as the ears were burning.
Yes.
Is Polynesian the language derivative of another language, or is it pretty close to its origin?
Or the Polynesian languages, if you want to don't lump it in one spot.
Yeah, all in one together, yeah. Or do they derive from something else?
Is it its own origins, or is it, or does it come from even earlier? There's a big debate about where the Polynesians came from.
Yeah.
And their region of stuff, and there's been sort of also genetic described it, but I don't know the linguistic origin.
Yeah, this is the linguistic question. Although I am curious, like, is there, when you say there's debate, you mean like within that field of study, there are people that are professionals in that field that are discussing back and forth, like where the Polynesian people came from?
Yes.
You don't mean people yelling at each other on Twitter?
No. We're talking about scientists, because this is science, putting forth a hypothesis, and there then being discussion as to which hypothesis has more merit, and does the new evidence being brought forward, support certain hypotheses or detract it. This is the science process. Science doesn't presume the answers. Dogma does,
right?
But science doesn't, and so debate among science.
Yes.
So when I say there's debated, it means there's open questions that people are researching, and they don't know, but there's some and hypothesis is not a wild guess,
right?
And hypotheses are not wild guesses,
right?
They're not.
They're not
stating dogma. They are reasoned.
Would when there be when people that want to come on and have that debate / discussion?
It has always been like that when people used to say like it's a theory. I'm like, don't say it's a theory. At best it's a hypothesis. Even then it's like being too generous with it. I would really get like irked when people would say it's just a theory though. I'm like, no, please.
No.
Dapper,
science, the theory.
Sorry, go ahead. No, you go first. I'll get it in a second.
I was saying, in science, theory is the penultimate of establishment of a deep level of understanding that's been of a hypothesis been well tested and elevated to a theory.
Exactly.
And that's an important set of things. So the theory of evolution, the theory of the formation of the solar system, the theory of orbital mechanics, or the shape of planets, so forth, is well established. Theory of general relativity, quantum theory. Even though there might be open questions. Even though we don't know everything, right? And it's because science works on what it doesn't understand. So what does Dapper say regarding Polynesian languages?
Dapper is saying Polynesian is a language family with no obvious connection to other families. It's characterized by low phenome count. Phoneme. Loose phonetic rules for vowels and isolating grammar.
Yes, it is an interesting language. I've heard when Hawaiians try to translate their set of things.
I was about this close to just sending him a link and having his disembodied voice come and educate us.
And,
Yeah, why
and you know,
not?
I was going to say,
Drag him in.
for in the state of Hawaii, Hawaiian is now an official language. One of the early things that Barack Obama as president did was to declare Hawaiians to be indigenous peoples.
That was good.
And there's a number of Hawaiians who say, how come you mainlanders don't recognize Obama as the first Hawaiian president? He was a man born in Hawaii. Sorry, orange hair clown.
Not in Africa.
Hawaii.
Not in Africa.
And,
not in Kenya.
Yeah, and to some people that makes him Hawaiian, right?
Sure.
And so they say Obama was the first Hawaiian president of the U.S. And in fact, one of the things he did in honor of that roots was to direct the Bureau of Indigenous Affairs to declare Hawaiians to be indigenous. This allowed them to dismiss court cases where people were suing, saying, "Why are my kids being forced to learn Hawaiian?"
Oh,
come on.
That's interesting.
There were Americans who were objecting to their kids having to learn Hawaiian in Hawaii.
What? Listen, we only speak American and not America.
and for
It would be like. Go on. No, it's like
US.
if you're in India, it's like, oh, why am I learning Hindi? You know, why am I learning Punjabi? Why am I learning Marathi?
Why is there a French class in my French immersion school?
For U.S. people, traveling to a place place in Hawaii, not in a tourist spot, but a place in Hawaii where there's lots of Hawaiians, and being there on like July 4th, or on the day that the U.S. claimed Hawaii from the Queen, one of those dates, you find some Hawaiians are basically saying, you don't see you see some people doing the flag waving, but you also see people who are going around signs saying you are on occupied land. There are Hawaiians who resent the occupation of stuff. And it's one of the places in the United States where Americans, particularly out in the rural things, are outnumbered by people who don't necessarily do the old American thing. On the other side, and because consequence of things like World War II and the veterans and so forth, there is the opposite extreme. There are people that are extremely super patriotic,
right?
Remembering Pearl Harbor and those things, and so it's a deal. I would recommend go and get a hotel and stay in a place like Hilo on July 4th and watch what happens. You'll see a very different thing than on the mainland. Good and bad, right? You see very patriotic people, very respective, and people who there are some Hawaiians on the other extreme that say we should be independent and secede and blah blah blah.
It's really hard to say in that kind of scenario what is good and what is bad. It's really just different perspectives and points of view, right? For a lot of things, and it's like, and I don't mean like what was right or wrong about what had been done historically. I mean people responding to it now, like their response.
Yeah,
it's hard to say whether their response is good or bad. I mean, it really just depends on. Yeah. What do you think? And it's like, well, is it really about you?
and if you're not a jerk and you're seen as being respectful, it's a very welcome thing. I had one of my best times in New Zealand was where I got a group of Maori and on Guy Fawkes night, and we had a nice bonfire, and they had they did the roasted fish in the pit and all the yams and all the whole big thing. Yeah, the hungy stuff, and it was all fun. The tongue, the whole bit. And
remind me at the end of this stream to make a shirt to add to the Teespring store that says "Not a jerk" for Landon.
But I think it's don't be a jerk is the thing. That would be I would say a Twitter motto is don't be a jerk.
Don't be a jerk.
So. But the Maori are sort of like they're saying too bad Guy Fawkes didn't succeed, sort of their thing. Right. But they do it in tongue in cheek.
Right.
Anyway, so Kilauea. Remember last time we were saying that Kilauea's, the time before Kilauea is kind of slowing down and then it's sped up again,
Mm-hmm.
and we were predicting it's going to expand and fill in stuff. Well, if you look at what's happened in terms of sulfur dioxide output at Halemaumau, from September 16th to October 28th, the amount of sulfur dioxide has cut in half.
Wow.
So we dropped. The Crater 4 rise, where it went up 6 meters the previous session, it has not risen since. It's stable. It hasn't sunk.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't risen.
Interesting.
And while it had 7 million cubic meters the previous time, it's had the volume of the lava lake has remained constant, even though lava is coming up and going back down. In. So it is either it is likely circulating. We're not seeing evidence of earthquakes of the magma moving down one of the spines. It may have found a sinus, right, where we call it Pele sinus, the cavity where it's coming in, but the lava lake itself has neither shrunk. If it found one of the tubes and started, because remember, it said if it eventually gets high enough, it'll go down. It might travel down one of the two spines of Kilauea. It hasn't. We haven't seen the earthquakes to suggest that. But it is less. The big thing is it is less stuff. And if we look at the again, like yesterday, there was only 600 tons of sulfur dioxide that came out from there, as opposed to 1,300 to 1,400 tons. So it's less gassy. If you look at deformation, right? Look at the tilt meters, right? You're not seeing really radical dilation events. This is kind of anemic. Even over the past month, there's only a couple. There's a DI event here, and here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe a minor one here, but that's it's not very. So this is suggesting there's not much energy entering the magma chamber. It's not completely full. Remember we talked about the summit, right? And the tilt meters, and when we were in October, we were like this, where it's going up, and we said, well, what's happening, right? And well, it went up again, and it kind of went down a little bit, and up again, and it's going up. It's definitely going up to the top here, but and on the long term, this is the beginning of the eruption, where it dropped down and came out, and it's expanding, but so the eruption isn't stalled, but it's certainly not as vigorous as it was last time. So we thought it was going to expand. No.
Yeah,
in fact,
you'll have to
look at Summit map.
Go back and watch a previous episode to see who was right and who was wrong about the predictions.
and remember, Pele has a habit of taking your predictions and deciding, I'm gonna do something different.
And crumpling up the paper and throwing it in the wastebasket.
Oh, that's a really interesting opinion you have here. It's a shame I didn't ask.
Yes. And so
did I ask you?
Overlook.
Where's my alcohol?
It's sort of like
and food.
Explaining. So remember, Phil, this overflow, and we said, well, your question about when is it going to go and start, and we thought that maybe in a month or two it might be up to this level here, and it's ready to rise, right? Well, no, right? It stayed the same. Gilligan Island is still there. It's still erupting this spot, but so lava's coming to the top and going back down, but it's just not the dough.
It's
not rising.
Yeah.
So you're thinking there's some sort of energy building up somewhere, but we don't know if it's building up or it's just like it's like.
Or is this the sign of the eruption winding down and stopping?
Right.
Right. Remember, if you talk about the spine here, right? If we talk about the spine of stuff, here's the summit, and here are the two sides. We're not seeing earthquakes of magma that might have entered in tubes going this direction or this direction. It's staying at the summit. It's not quit. It's not done, but it's certainly not invigorating, right? And if you look at earthquakes wise, there certainly are earthquakes here at the summit. right? Not as nearly as what's going on in Maanyaa, but it's actually erupting. And there's also this pile down here in the corner, similar to, Mauna Loa has this pile here. Right? These are regions here that are deeper in, that have these due to the magma moving. It's sort of one of the places where stuff breaks. So the summit where it's actually erupting has earthquakes, but this has more earthquakes and it's not yet erupting. And if we look at stuff, if we look at what's happening here, like this was last night. You see, if you're at the Park Center overlook, you'd see this nice little spot here of lava moving. Here's a thermal image of that lava coming up and going down. Here's a nice a wider picture of that lava. Like this is around 200 meters across here, within the larger set. Here's a more live picture of caldera. You got this nice little hornito. There's the lava there. This is about 1 kilometer across. Again, this lava lake hasn't really expanded, hasn't contracted. And if we let's do a refresh here and see what happens, right? The wind blows up there to get a better idea about what's happening. Here's that again, a scene about an hour ago with the lava moving, kind of comes up here and goes back down here. So it's kind of circular.
The patterning is so interesting. Like just looking at it's almost like cross hatching, and just seeing like that. Yeah, it looks like it's raking back and forth in different directions. And I assume that would have to do with like just direction of flow and wind and temperature, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. It's super interesting to see.
And so let's do an update and see what happens, right? This is an update there. Now look at this pattern.
Yeah, it's completely changed. It's completely different.
Yeah.
Don't walk on it.
You see the red. Yeah. No. This is, in fact, this is kind of squishy over here as well. So you see the red when the lava is moving fast enough that it can break the surface and not instantaneously freeze. This is basically this is lava, very active lava here, where you get that skin, kind of like that pudding skin.
When was the last time any of you guys made brownies? Or like cake, where you use like a hand blender?
2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, yes.
Yeah, and when you use the hand blender, you go across and you get like that pattern of it getting churned up, and then you go across a different angle and it changes the whole way the thing looks.
Yes, and it kind of as it's pouring in. So you look at the difference between an hour ago and this hour here, right? This spot here now is much more. So it's definitely, here's another picture before. Showing again some of the sets here, thermal images there. Air quality wise, there still is a lot of gas coming from the crater heading down towards this area. This is basically the trade winds that blow. So people that are down in this area here are kind of used to basically the fog, called volcanic fog, coming down from the site. But as I say, it continues to be pretty much here. So here's the Mauna Loa summit, and we see some of the stuff happening there. So people, their eyes are sort of turning towards what Mauna Loa might be doing. Here's another thing of the summit southwest zone. So we'll see what happens. But so my question is, all right. So we thought the eruption was going to be greater this month. It wasn't. We thought that the lava might rise to the point where it would fill in some of this area, and it didn't. It stayed the same. So what do you think will happen next month?
I think it's going to get way bigger. I don't think it'll like erupt, but I think everything's going to expand.
It will stay the same. Stay the same.
So I'm going to.
We're going to get a blowout for Christmas.
That we might see a slight expansion. And if we do get a slight expansion, I'm going to guess that the earthquakes are going to start seeing a migration, right? That is, we go back, where's the earthquake pattern here? We might see more quakes starting to go down here, down the spine, or quakes down this direction. So if it is kind of a pause because it's found a pocket that the magma's moving into and filling in a crevice, and that fills up. So the argument against it being more vigorous is the fact that we're not seeing very much in the way of deflation inflation events. Right? This is not a very DIE sort of thing. Whereas remember, if you looked at what was happening, if you look at what was happening with the with Mauna Loa, right? Mauna Loa's system is actually quite active in that sense. Let's go back to its tilt meters, right? The tilt meter is over. It was somewhere over here. I guess. Kilauea isn't doing this. Mauna Loa is.
Yeah.
So, but I think it's going to be. I think we'll see the next time they do the monthly reading that it might expand slightly. Yeah, I think the Lubbock level may go up like a meter or so over the next month. Not a big thing. And we might even see some earthquakes suggesting the magma might be on the move.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
But that's I would be shocked if the eruption were to end in the next month.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
I think it's going to kind of smolder for a while and may have some upticks, downticks. Mauna Loa, they're now doing daily updates on the thing, and the question becomes, well, what's happening? Well, they're saying now, like this last 24 hours, they had 27 small earthquakes on the slope that's down a little bit. They have not detected much in the way of uptick of gases, right? So we don't have an uptick of sulfur dioxide or hydrogen sulfide or carbon dioxide coming out of the mountain yet. And the summit has ranged from 10 to 20 quakes a day to about 40 to 50 quakes a day. It kind of goes up and down. Magma is currently about 3 to 8 kilometers beneath the summit. So will it erupt next month?
I'll say it will stay the same.
I don't think it's going to like full on erupt, but I think that we'll have like another little event soon that is not unsimilar to that bigger spike from a few months ago in the summer.
I think so. I would be surprised if Mauna would erupt next month. I would be surprised if it didn't erupt in the next year. So I think 2023 might be the year that Mauna Loa erupts, but there's no guarantee on that sort of thing. I would be surprised. I mean, the way that Kilauea is going, I would not be surprised if the eruption stops sometime next year.
Oh, okay.
But that's a.
We did have a couple of questions. One is Todd at the beginning was asking if you knew someone named Alan Glasner of UNC Chapel Hill and does plate tectonics and volcanoes.
I know that name. I don't know that person personally. I know the name, and probably because of papers.
You're familiar with them, but you're not.
Yeah.
That's super cool. Landon knows everybody.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
That name is familiar. Glasner is a name that's known in geology. So, but I've not had a chance to meet the person. What other questions do we have?
I had a question that was from like off stream that was about Yellowstone erupting. And so there's theories and ideas that are pushed out there, and I'm using colloquial definition of theory. People have posited that an eruption of Yellowstone would basically kill off humanity. Or kill off the world as we know it.
And answer is I mean almost certainly no. If and this is a victim of the so-called History Channel getting its ratings week, where it does the Yellowstone supervolcano is going to end because they have to, and we know that they come around to people to ask if they want to, if there's any statements that they can make with regards to Yellowstone. I've never been featured on that show because I don't give them the hype they want. I don't even give them the soundbite. So when and they've never taken my recording from it. So when the things like, well, can you put you on recording? Just talking about how dangerous is the Yellowstone supervolcano. I said it is not. I repeat, not dangerous at this time. It is very unlikely to have a civilization-ending thing anytime soon, and it is a disservice that you do to volcanology by hiking this stuff up when there are volcanoes like Rainier, like White, like Beaufort that are near civilizations that are much more deadly, right? This Hawaiian, let's say the caldera that's Yellowstone. In order for it to have a similar event that it had, 700,000 years ago, would have to build up. So you'd see expansion. It'd have to have volcanic eruptions where lava is pouring out. It would have to then have enough of evacuation of that cap that the magma has to go out to lava on the side enough that then the thing collapses in, because the Yellowstone event was a collapse, not a boom.
All right.
And so I would expect that Yellowstone would probably require several thousand years of eruptions before the magma chamber built enough that it could collapse.
Right. So you're looking at
possible, but there's
even if it was going, is it possible that it could? Sure, in 100,000 years from now.
Or maybe even 50,000 years or like that.
Sure.
I mean, it's on the order of tens of thousands of years, 100,000 years of stuff. There are other areas, caldera areas, that could be much more likely to have a VEI 8 event than Yellowstone. And they were kind of surprised at how critical. I said, you are really doing people as a service, and you are creating. It said you are creating danger, and this person says, "Well, why do you say that?" I said, you, the interviewer, you, the hype show, because there are volcanoes that are deadly, that kill people, that have killed people, are likely to kill people, that are not being monitored,
right? Because
everyone focuses on this Yellowstone thing, and they don't focus on Wildland. They don't focus on Rainier. They don't focus on Etna or these other volcanoes that are nearby. There's volcanoes in Africa. There's volcanoes in Indonesia, so forth.
Listen, people, Landon, those
not being monitored.
Those are outside of America, and there's only not America. We don't care about those ones. We only care about the ones that affect the white people in America.
And Yellowstone is a hot spot. It goes through periods of time where it's there, but it's no more likely than Mount Mazama, which is currently Crater Lake, to reform, erupt, and collapse again, right?
It doesn't have the activity you would expect to see for if it was going to be anytime soon.
Yes, and even if we did,
fantastic answer.
Again, if there's a volcano erupting in the Yellowstone Basin, we'd have a number of telltale signs of magma, moving gas emissions, changes of hydrothermal stuff. And even then, the first volcano is not going to be the end of civilization. Right. So yes, it's been wartime, and just like say for the Zealand government should invest in making sure they monitor White Island. There's other volcanoes in New Zealand that should also be monitored, that are in the North Island, right? North Island's got lots of volcanoes.
We have a suggestion in the chat from Aries that says they want to watch an episode of Ancient Aliens where Landon keeps popping up and wrecking all the pseudoscience on the show.
Well, what I would recommend Dapper and I do is a drinking game, similar to some of his drinking games.
Oh, can we?
Oh god, this is going to be so interesting.
I will
Yes.
set that up.
Yeah.
Pick an
By
episode
the
of. I'll go
way-
download like a set of Ancient Alien episodes, and we'll.
And I have never watched an Ancient Aliens episode. I'm familiar with the shtick, but I've never
Look
sat
at his
through
face.
one.
It's
So
like, "Ugh."
So Landon's gonna debunk this shit live off the cuff while drunk.
Yes, please.
and your dad with Dapper, we can
With
do
Dapper.
a drinking game with Mothra and all that sort of good stuff he does with his other things. If you ever really with some of his shtick. By the way, Dapper Danos.
We could do it.
Channel is cool.
We could do it for Christmas. We could do like an Ancient Aliens Christmas countdown.
Yes. We could do that, and then we'd have a fun thing, and kind of have that commentary.
Landon's
and
like,
add a little
oops.
bit of science.
Yes.
You know, we'd have to come up with this, and I would work. You know, I would rely on Dapper's thing about what things should we trigger drinks for, right? For that sort of stuff. But,
if we
yeah,
let
that would be a
Dapper
thing.
choose the drinking times, we're gonna be dead.
Yeah, but he always says be responsible, and you don't have to. You're not chugging whole shots every time someone says alien.
No, we're gonna
let's
have
come
to
up with
do like
something
one of them's gonna have to be a waterfall. Where if we all make the same face while this guy is talking, we have to waterfall until he stops.
But yeah. But by the way, there's the other proposal I mentioned. By the way, you talk about the current events thing. Another thing that you do for that cast of characters. But that's a difference. But yes, if Dapper's up to it, we could do a thing where you pick a show and we can react and see what happens.
Oh yeah, I will absolutely set this up. We'll give it a little bit of hype time. We'll do it in December. Sound good?
Yes, and yeah, sounds good. And I have to say, in general, the thing I find that's a shame about some of this ancient alien stuff is the denial that people back then were smart and clever and industrious, right? The notion that, for example, you couldn't have a bunch of people in Africa, in an area called Egypt, build huge structures. You had to have aliens come up and help them. It does a real disservice to Egyptians, who are a very industrious people that have a long history of very significant, skills in works and building of stuff, and to deny that Africans can't do this, to me is just wrong thinking, right? The notion that the Mayans couldn't have done it because they're clever people and they're well organized, and the Aztecs were clever people and had lots of skills and so forth. That you had to have somebody else help them because they weren't capable of doing it. I think that's a disservice to those.
April
those
says, "Why does it have to be something special? We should be doing this every week." I said, "Please have mercy on me, please no. I can only handle so much."
That's true. Now,
my wallet can't afford all that alcohol.
I'll send you some.
The last, back to with Yellowstone, the last major eruption was 640,000 years ago. The cold formed, and 70,000 years ago in the caldera was the last eruption. And it's likely that if it were beginning to erupt, it would take several thousand years to build up the caldera with enough of a magma chamber to collapse and do another event.
Yeah.
There's probably other sites that are much better. But again, back to the aliens, don't assume that every time an ancient civilization does something amazing that they had to have outside help. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
the Vulcans aren't showing up and helping them understand because they see
the Asgardians from.
Oh, you should watch.
You
should watch their episodes on Indian mythology. You should watch their episodes on Indian mythology.
God.
Oh my goodness! Whenever I used to watch one of those, I used to scream. I used to scream and just pull my hair out. I'm like, it's mythology. It's nothing more than that. Shut the fuck up.
This is turning into a series of Dunk on the History Channel.
Why not? Why not?
Yeah.
They're giving us the content to work on. Why not?
Fair enough, I guess.
So my prediction that Pele will probably laugh at is next time we meet, the floor will have risen just slightly, there might, in my extended thing, there might even be some hints of earthquakes that the magma might be on the move. Mauna Loa will not have erupted, but it will still remain relatively active. That's my guess. But of course, Pele will laugh at that and say, "Isn't that quaint?"
Well, what's everybody got going on for this weekend and for the week coming up?
I'm trying to submit an assignment on time.
Maanya's on her break and she's going back to rescue the snow leopards.
Yeah.
Yes, snow leopards are important to rescue.
Just imagine Maanya's just running around in the snow in like bikini loincloth, picking up baby leopards.
Mommy.
I
I'm your
have,
savior.
two things. I have some code that I'm uploading on GitHub. There's a couple of tools that I've had that people have used for many years, and they want me to formally release them. So I'm cleaning up the tools so that when I launch it, it'll be available for people for free. The other thing that's kind of sad that's happening right now outside my thing is that we had a really nice big leaf maple that the winds that came out of the Fraser Valley in Canada, thank you Canada, jostled the giant maple enough that the side of it broke off, and it tore more than half of the trunk, revealing sort of rot in the core, and the rest of the tree is basically and this is the tree. This is the maple that's about 40 meters tall.
Yeah, if it wasn't rotting on the inside, it was rotting already, so that means it had no way to hold on through the wind.
Oh,
the leaf, the branches are basically doing this to the tree, and the result is that there was actually enough water collecting that plants started growing in the core and rotting it out. So when the thing tore off, and we had like a 60-kilometer-an-hour gusts of wind, it jostled the thing enough that it pulled aside and broke it open. So the sad thing is that maple has to come down. We estimate the maple probably was about 300 years old.
Well, I mean, I guess you could probably find out when you take it down. You'll find out how old it was.
Yeah. Yep. That's one of the things I want them to do is to let me go up and do the tree ring counting stuff. I'm guessing, but it's because the base of the thing is about 3 meters in diameter.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big tree.
Yeah, that's big.
But it's the big leaf maple thing. It's not the sugar maple of
well,
that was something I appreciate the Nova Scotians educating me on is the proper Canadian leaf, right?
Yeah.
The fact that your currency has the wrong leaf.
Yeah.
It's
yeah. We're kind of dumb sometimes.
I mean, the maple leaf you might see on at Timmy's, Tim Hortons, is the proper one, whereas the one that's on the currency is the Norwegian Psyche.
Yeah. Thing. Listen, our government doesn't always do the smartest things all the time.
I'm shocked, but
God.
So that's a little bit.
Invest in a new Renaissance and getting more artists and paying them because they're the ones who got the leaf wrong.
I'm just imagining the amount of like notes that New Zealand will have to phase out because now King Charles is the new king instead of the Queen Elizabeth.
I guarantee you most Canadians didn't even notice the leaf thing.
That's sad because but that was a thing I had because I went with some people who were experienced in botany and culture and so forth, and I got the thing about saying like Canadian Tire, its leaf is this way, blah blah, blah, and you begin to know. But that was I think it's a confusing thing that people assume that's on your currency. It's a proper leaf. And it's not.
You would think that would be a reasonable thing to assume that we would have the right leaf on our money. No.
So maybe if they have to put the guy with the big ears on your currency, they could like fix the
take the opportunity.
But
that would be nice.
Yes. On the other hand, Australia, there's a big thing right now in Australia, rather than because I think the five $5 bill in Australia has the one with with the Queen on it, and rather than to put the big ears on it, they want to put on an Australian like Steve Irwin or something like that. You know, someone that is Australian, as opposed to some dude that pretends to be appointed by God.
They've done that with some of our money as well. Like the bills will have somebody besides the Queen on them, like the historical Canadian figure. Anyway, we're gonna get out of here. Thank you so much for joining us. If you're Volcanoes. Thank you so much for joining us. If you're able to join us, if you're watching in the future, thanks so much for sticking with us through this. It's been very interesting. I can't wait to see what happens next month. Thank you so much to our Patreons and members for super chatting today, for becoming members today. If you decide to become a member, you can do so on here, or you can do it on Patreon. Links are in the description down below. If you want to follow these two,
please give us a thumbs up.
Oh yeah, I always forget. Hit the like button. I always forget about the like button.
And Patreon,
smack that like button like a bag of rice. Uncle Roger said
that like button is free, and if you want to give just a little bit of a extra boost, you can become a patron and appreciate all the hard work that's done behind the scenes.
And you can join us in the Discord, where it's shenanigans all day, all the time. However, if you do really want to help us out, find a friend who's interested in this kind of topic and share the video with them. That would be greatly appreciated. Have a good day, everybody. I will see you on Tuesday for Tuesday Talks. And we're talking about some music and Doom Eternal and some shenanigans that have gone on in the gaming industry in the recent
shenanigans
times.
In the gaming industry? I'm shocked
and appalled. All right, thank you everybody for coming, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.